31 January 2024. This is a Warrafak moment. And the question we have to ask ourselves, what did politicians actually bring to our lives? That is what you should ask yourself, whether you're white, black, Indian, colored, whatever. You need to ask yourself that question. There is now the fairly well publicized Battle of Centurion looming for tomorrow, Friday the 2nd of February. It's actually not tomorrow, it's Friday. Time flies. But the fact is that a lot of people are seeing this, and to a large extent it seems to be focused and isolated to the white voters, and specifically the more conservative white voters, which include the Boere. And the aim is directed at the Freedom Front Plus. And the question will come up, what the hell is going on here from an outsider observing this, even if you are not in South Africa, but in Europe or in America? What is going on here? In essence, what is going on is that in the voter population of the Freedom Front Plus, questions are being asked. They had a specific mandate when that party was originally created. And part of that mandate was self-determination for the white Afrikaner Boere. And it is quite clear. A lot of shenanigans has happened there in the upper echelon of the Freedom Front Plus. And now 30 years later, people are beginning to ask questions. What the hell happened here? What happened to the Afrikaner Accord? What is going on around Section 235 in the Constitution? And that Freedom Front Plus leadership don't have answers. Yes, they've got a lot of spin. And all of a sudden, social media is flooded with videos from the leadership, and they are trying to glorify their achievements and things like that, which is fuck all. Nothing. No benefit to the average voter. And yes, of course, they are well established, they've got their connections, and they have access to resources that the rebels don't have. And I saw last night one of my staunch critics has now launched his own page, and he sat there for an hour for the Freedom Front Plus. What the hell does the man think he's going to achieve with that? He can talk, but it's words. You have to look at the facts on the ground. The facts on the ground is the Freedom Front Plus has failed in their mandate that they got from the voters from day one. They did not pursue self-determination. They did not. They brag that they are. Corneille Mulder himself reckons he's the father of Section 235. From where I am sitting, that's the only claim to fame he has, that he is the father. But he allowed that baby to die in the cot because he did not feed him. That's what actually happened there. Now we sit here 30 years later, and we're in a deep quagmire. But what people need to understand, the voters need to understand, this Battle of Centurion might be from the conservative white voters, but what they are doing there, every voter in the country, no matter which party you support, needs to take note and understand what the real fight is about. The real fight is about a selected, isolated, royal class that took control of the Freedom Front Plus, and they created a almost royalty inside that party, which is untouchable. And they and their family members and close friends take the seats of power. And the rest of that party will never get close to that. Because this, I call them the Vaseline Gang. This Vaseline Gang has managed to isolate and insulate themselves very well from any fucking sign or indicator or action that could be viewed democratic. There's none of that. It is a autocracy. Actually, it looks to me more like a kingdom. So, that is what is going on with the Battle of Centurion and in the Freedom Front Plus. Now look at the ANC. You have got exactly the same problem there. The same faces is there for 30 years. And what have they delivered to you as a voter of the ANC? What have they delivered? The visual signs of what they have delivered is unemployment, collapse of the railways, collapse of the harbours, collapse of the passenger rail service, collapse of the health service, collapse of border control, collapse of law and order, collapse of personal security. Those are the things that ANC leadership delivered to you. But they're sitting there for 30 years and they're doing it. And I want to place a lot of blame, if not all the blame, on this grouping in the black communities, which is known as the clever blacks. You clever blacks, you need to take full responsibility for the bullshit that your fellow countrymen are in. Because you hid in your little dark rooms and did not apply the knowledge, the intelligence, and the education that you acquired to alert your fellows, your tribe members, of what the hell is going on. I see there's a few now that are beginning to speak out. I like what I hear from some of this new, I want to call them right-wing black parties, because those guys are talking sense, and they give their ideas of how things should be salvaged. The nasty bad news is the central government for South Africa has managed to fuck everything up that is supposed to service the population and the citizens. And what must be most disturbing to all of us is the rate at which gangsters, warlords, has risen among us right under the eyes of law and order. That should worry you like hell. Then we look at the DA. They have had a few changes in their top structure, but the control structure is in the same hands, and we all know that the DA is solidly committed to the XXX ideals. When the pestilence broke out, all these top parties, all of them, gladly cheered along and allowed that virus control council cuck, whatever they call themselves, to do whatever they like to us as citizens. I mean, they banned us from buying roasted chicken and buying underwear and buying open-toe sandals. Cuck like that. That has got absolutely nothing to do with the pestilence. It was just an exertion of power. Now, all of us must take responsibility for that, because if us, the population of 65 million, stood up like one man and said, up yours with all your fucking regulations, we will not comply, it would have been a different story. But we've been brainwashed and battered into a position that we comply to anything. And they are doing things to us, and they are planning now to do more things to us. In front of our eyes, they are busy capturing our food production. And they are going to starve us. You must understand that. That's what they're going to do. That is what those politicians are there for. Every politician that you see on a public stage talking anything about the election, just understand one thing. He is just there fighting for that seat in Parliament. He is not there for any benefit to you, the voter. Look at Julius Malema. His message, very revolutionary, and he whips the youth into a frenzy. What you should do is ask Julius, what has he done for you in the past years as he has been in Parliament? What has he done? Has he initiated one educational establishment, followed it through, and actually delivered students from there? Has he done that? Has he established any one health institute anywhere and drove it to completion? Just one. Has he initiated any investment in industrial development that created jobs for you? Just one. No, he has not. But he's quick to whip you into a frenzy to destroy shit. But you will pay for it. You are going to suffer. You don't get education. You don't get health services. You will never find a job. That is the reality. What politicians are doing to you. That is what the politicians are doing to you. Then we have some upstarts. The UIM is now shooting hard to get into Parliament. You must ask yourself, what the fuck are they going to deliver for you? Same promises. Same radical promises. We've got the Patriotic Alliance. Gayton McKenzie, very outspoken, and I agree with a lot of things that he is saying. But he's a politician. Don't ever forget that. This is the problem we have. And then there's people that come onto my WhatsApp group and they're hammering me, and as well as in my comments on the YouTube channel about OHM. Listen carefully. OHM may have a very good idea, but the chances of that ever being implemented is fucking zero, because they need massive changes to do the Constitution, and they're not going to get it. They will not. They will never become a majority party, because you must understand the solution that they are offering means that all those politicians sitting in Parliament are going to lose, most probably going to lose their seats. Now, do you for one moment think they will vote for that? Then we look at this other ridiculousness. The ANC was in financial shit, and from the reports that I see, it now appears as if Iran has bailed them out. But what was the price that Iran charged? That ICJ court case, that farce. So, in my view, the ANC basically just strapped a suicide vest on and went to the ICJ. That vest is going to explode. We saw it. They didn't reach the goals they wanted at the ICJ. Now they're aiming for the United Nations. But the reality is this: in the meantime, the Zionists are hitting back. We saw the video in which that South African flag was ripped off the pole in Tel Aviv. We see now things appear in the press of Israelis, or one of the things I saw was that they cancelled all their table grape orders from South Africa. Problem is, those farmers are sitting with the grapes on the vines. What now? Then we've seen how much capital has flowed out of the country in the first few days. 1.4 trillion rand. That's a lot of money. But it's going to get worse. The Israelis are going to hit back hard. We've already seen the video coming out now on which they are now pushing the plight of the Boere in the farm killings. The ANC did not think this through. And instead of keeping their fucking mouths shut and stay neutral, they pick a side. And this is where they are now. Now they've got a problem. I'm personally of the opinion that there's no turning back for them. They will have to pull that pin on that suicide vest at some stage. We've got this situation with Zuma and his MK. So there's a lot of things going on the political playing field. But we, the citizens, the voters, we are the ones that are going to pay for this shit. We are the ones that are going to pay for this shit. This central government has lost all its right to claim that they're actually in charge, because they are not. And the rate at which money has been stolen from the state and embezzled, the corruption is over the moon. We are now once again in the news on the international press about the levels of corruption in South Africa. But what you, the ordinary voter, must understand those guys sitting there in the top, they don't care because they have amassed unbelievable amounts of money. And if the shit hits the fans up in South Africa, many of them will disappear and evaporate into some obscure island or wherever, because they've got enough money to do that. We have to stay behind and face the music. So, when it comes to the Battle of Centurion, understand that it is a voters' resistance against the death grip that the elite of that Freedom Front Plus has on that whole party. Keep that in mind. Then look around at your own party and ask yourself, what have they actually delivered for us, apart from a lot of empty promises and threats and screaming slogans, kill the boer, kill the farmer. They quick to say kill the boer, kill the farmer. Has Malema established one successful farming enterprise for blacks? Just one? No. But there's something like 870 farms that has been expropriated by the government, and of that, over 800, only 5 are still in production. Ask yourself why. So, keep your eyes open. They are pushing us, this is the politicians, and they're doing it on instruction from their XXX masters. And for the new guys on the channel, I'm going to give you in writing on the screen what XXX is, what I see as XXX, because those words, if I use it, I've got problems. So, read it. The fact of the matter is, all of that politicians sitting there in Parliament, all 400 of them, are there to execute the instructions from XXX. And in South Africa, the branch in South Africa of XXX is a small group of people, mostly whites, but there are blacks among them as well. Don't forget that. Those are the people that are only interested in power and profit. They've got they don't give a shit whether you eat once a day or once a week. That doesn't bother. As long as every time anyone spends something, their till goes ka-ching, they're happy. And that is what's happening. This elite XXX wing has basically got control over everything in South Africa. And that should worry you deeply. And I have done skidmarks on it, on how to break the XXX power. And it is just simple a matter of, we have to go tribal. But this central government is standing on the edge of the cliff. They have got zero support to call themselves a government, because they don't have the control over the country anymore. We are just allowing them. And now they're out there canvassing us again to vote for them so that they can get that 4 seats. Now, what is happening in South Africa, they tell us it's a democracy until you have voted. And then it is a very small group in every political party that decides who is going into the seats. Not you and me, the voters. That is why you see those guys in Parliament, you don't even know who they are and where the fuck they're from. You don't know. You just see them, they call themselves from this party or that party or that party. Think about this. Look at those people in the ANC benches there. Most of them are geriatrics. The bulk of them, 85%, that's what that one report said, cannot even read a financial statement. But they're voting over budgets. And you, the clever blacks, you are the ones that must take responsibility for that shit. But we, the voters, need to take responsibility for allowing the same cabal in each and every party to sit there for 30 years and fuck our lives up. So, the Battle of Centurion is a fight in the white, Afrikaner and Boer communities against the management of a party that was supposed to stand for the dreams and wishes of that party, and they didn't do it. Now we want that management out. The option is simple. They either resign and go, or we don't vote for them again. Will that have effect? I wouldn't know. But if enough people are upset, it's going to hurt them. And the same is, if you are a black guy, an Indian guy, a colored guy, and you're in the Centurion area, and you're a conservative, right-thinking person, open-minded and realistic, and care for the future of your children, you may as well go and join that little gathering at 12 o'clock, from 12 o'clock onwards, at the Freedom Front Party offices in Centurion. Put your face there so they can see. You're also unhappy. You're not unhappy with the Freedom Front. You're unhappy with that Vaseline Gang that controls everything. And every party has its own Vaseline Gang. We are driving this thing under, let's clean the pigsty. Kom ons maak die varkhok skoon. All of you, every political party need to clean their own pigsty. Clean it. I'm not saying break it down. I say clean that pigsty. Because the question you have to ask you is, for 30 years, they've been sitting there in Parliament, and what did they deliver to you? Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.